Well, hello, Mindscape artist. I'm Candy here, and I'm just going to go over a few things that um, I noticed. It's a spinoff from the problems with solving problems. The problem with solving problems is something that I have noticed because when you tell people that you can assist them with their problems, solving them or eliminating them, that brings about a certain amount of fear because people have to deal with what's behind their problem, and usually it's them. So I decided I wanted to do a series on the problem with solving problems. Um, and what started it was when I realized that everybody who attempted to solve a problem, make something free, destroy the racism paradigm, to create health care for everyone. Um, Anytime somebody, create lights for everybody free of charge. Anytime somebody wanted to create a problem, a solution to a problem, um, they were stopped in politics. And I noticed that it's because behind every problem is the shadow of the things that we don't want to let go of. Okay, and this goes for everybody, the people that create the problem, the people that have issues with the problem, that are targeted with the problem. So, this is the spinoff to the long, rambling 45-minute video that I did. You can go back and listen to that. I'm not going to put you through that, but this is the first video off of that. And this one is about the problem with solving problems. And this is about shifting perspective, intention, and motivation. So, when we start trying to solve a problem, the first thing we want to do is change the other person or change the situation. That's always going to create a roadblock because, for the most part, you're not going to be able to change the other person and you're not going to be able to change the situation. The best that you could hope for is that you can change yourself. And so, as you improve yourself, okay, so the first thing you do is you ask, what is this problem trying to reveal to me? Because 9 times out of 10, the problem is showing you yourself, because all problems are a projection of us, what it is that we choose to see. A lot of times people say, oh, that's not true, that's not true. But I have to always go back to my astrological roots because with astrology, you're able to take charts from 3 different people in the same family raised by the same parents. You're able to see the different perspectives of each individual in that chart and how they experience the world. And that lens that they have been born with, that perspective, is different for each child or sibling. So if you take those 3 charts and you ask each sibling what was their perspective on an upbringing, they will agree that our parents were strict, or our parents were lenient, or our parents were this, but they were always treating this one this way, this one that way, and this one the other way. I never got as much attention, or I didn't get played with as much as the other one. My mother didn't give me as many hugs as she gave them, or it's always that, right? Now, when you're in a problem or a situation, it feels like it's happening to you and only you, and it feels like the other person is doing it. But what we don't recognize is how the lens that we're born into, that we project out, is being reflected back to us. And the moment we change that lens, we see a different perspective. When you see a different perspective, you act differently. And when you act differently, people respond to you differently. So if you have the perception that your mother doesn't have time for you and your mother doesn't really want to be bothered with you, you may act withdrawn because you are afraid of rejection. When you act withdrawn because you're afraid of rejection, because of the perception you have in your mind that your mother doesn't have time for you, what happens is your mother never gets the message that you want any attention, because you are retrieving, and the mother gives the attention to the child that doesn't care or have that perspective or that lens that they're looking through. Their lens may see mother as, you're supposed to meet my needs whether you want to or not, and I'm going to assert myself and get my needs met. So the mother will turn her attention to that child based on that child's perspective. And that child will get that reflected back to them. So that child will say, Mom always paid attention to me. The other child that was withdrawn will say, Mom never paid any attention to me, right? It started with that perspective. It started with that perspective. And I can say that because I'm a mother, right? And I had two children just like that. One child who didn't appear to need much of anything. And I would check in with him and he would be like, I'm fine, I'm fine. You know, I don't think he has the perspective that I neglected him, but I did notice immediately when they were born that my second child was very demanding and feels like her parents are here to just meet her needs only. And even if she tries not to be that way, she's just very assertive that way. Whereas her brother is very reserved. So she got a lot of attention, right? And so our personalities always kind of go before us, you know, and we will meet our reflection in life over and over and over. So when you see something that you don't like, the first thing you need to do is shift your perspective about it. Okay? And then you'll start seeing different things, feeling different energies. The next thing that you're going to want to do is choose between relieving yourself or eliminating the situation. Now, in some cases, and you really can't eliminate a situation. You have the perception that you've eliminated the situation. But even if you leave the situation is still carrying on without you. Okay? So in reality, you haven't eliminated the situation. You've just removed yourself away from it. So the first thing you need to know is that you're not going to be able to eliminate the situation, but you can relieve yourself of the situation. How do you do that? Well, it starts with the shifting of the perspective, but it also starts with the next step of interacting with the situation as though it were the way that you want it to be. So if you interact with it as though the way you want it to be, the other players will act the same way. Do not take my word for this. Try it. Just try it. So, for example, and children are perfect to try this with, you know, because they're so easy. So let's say you do have a child that is difficult. And instead of trying to eliminate the difficulty within the child, you can act like the child is not difficult, right? And the best way to do that is to go ahead of the perceived difficulty. Speak life into it. Speak it the way that you want it to be. I'm so glad that we get time to spend together. I always love the way that you act so good when we go out. How you always ask before you touch things, or how you compliment that child on their good behavior before they even do it. That way you're doing it out of expectancy of the good rather than the fear of the bad, you know? And you can do that on your job with your coworkers. You can do it with your annoying friends. You can do that with your annoying family members. I mean, you can do it with the cashier in line. You can do it with anything. Right? Now, some people are going to be resentful and they're going to lash out. They're going to be resistant. They're going to say, are you trying? They're going to think you're trying to be funny, some people. But for the most part, this is something that changes the vibration in you. It relieves you of the fear that this is going to take place. And it puts you in a place of creating the situation that you actually want. Okay, so instead of trying to eliminate the problem, you're going to relieve yourself by acting as the problem is not even there. This is not denial. This is not the same thing as denial. Okay? All right, the third thing is your motivation. Your motivation should shift from solving the problem to simply creating awareness around the problem. You'll be surprised. A lot of people are not aware that they are a problem or the problem. And what happens is when you create that awareness, it literally changes the vibration, makes the other person responsible without making them responsible. Get what I'm saying? So you may say, like if somebody says something that is out of the way, something that hurts your feelings, ask them to repeat it slowly. Ask them to repeat it slowly. Say, could you repeat that again? This time, say it slower. And usually that person, in saying whatever they said slower, their words, their vibration has a chance to hit them. They get a chance to feel what they've said and how it may feel and sound to you. So these are a few tricks to solving a problem without solving the problem. Because remember, I said there are problems with solving problems. And the problem is changing the other person, trying to eliminate the situation, and actually solving the problem without creating the awareness around the problem. So, if you try to solve a problem rather than create the awareness, people aren't going to be aware of what you're doing. They're going to be like, what's the problem? Don't you hear people say, oh, what's the problem? And then you have to go back and say, well, hey, this is the problem. But when you try to solve a problem without creating awareness around the problem, people resist you. They push back because they perceive you as trying to take over. They perceive you as trying to um, change them, right? Now, is this 100%? No. But what it does do is it builds you up. It builds your character up. It builds your strength up. It builds your skills up because you are now learning how to relieve yourself. You're learning how to create awareness, and you're learning how to improve yourself. Who doesn't want to do that? So I hope that this was informative. Reconstruct the world by reconstructing your mind. Bye.